MS Ramaya University of Applied Sciences.
Hello students, with this experiment we are determining the consistency or penetration value of the given bitumen sample. Apparatus. It consists of items like container, needle, water bath, penetrometer, stopwatch, etc. Container is 55 mm in diameter and 35 mm to 57 mm height. The needle is provided with a shank approximately 3 mm in diameter into which it is immovably fixed. The consistency of bituminous materials vary depending upon several factors such as constituents, temperature, etc. The consistency of bitumen is determined by penetration test, which is a very simple test. The penetration test determines the consistency of these materials for the purpose of grading them by measuring the depth in units, a tenth of a millimeter or 1/100th of a centimeter, to which a standard needle will penetrate vertically under specified conditions of standard load, duration and temperature. The basic principle of the penetration test is the measurement of the penetration in units of 1/10 of a mm of a standard needle in a bitumen sample maintained at 25 degrees Celsius during 5 seconds, the total weight of the needle assembly being 100 grams. The penetration test is widely used world over for classifying the bitumen into different grades. Procedure. The bitumen sample should be heated to a temperature of 75 to 100 degrees Celsius at which the bitumen softens. The sample is thoroughly stirred to make it homogeneous and free from air bubbles. Pour the sample into the cylindrical metallic container to a depth of 15 mm. The sample along the cylindrical metallic container is cooled in air for 1 hour and also in water bath for 1 hour. After cooling, place the cylindrical metallic container below the needle of the penetrometer. The weight of assembly should be 100 grams. Draw down the needle of the penetrometer such that the needle should touch the top surface of the bitumen sample. Note down the initial reading from the graduated scale when it touches the top surface. Release the needle exactly for a period of 5 seconds by priming the knob and take the final reading from a graduated scale. Repeat the same procedure for 3 different sides of the same sample. The penetration value is measured in terms of millimeter. Calculations and observations in terms of pouring temperature, period of cooling in atmosphere, period of cooling in water bath, and room temperature are made. Data collection and tabulation is as shown in the table.
Hi students, as a part of Concrete and Highway Laboratory, now we are doing the experiment on the penetration value of bitumen. So what do you mean by bitumen? It's an end product obtained from the fractional distillation of crude oil. We call it as a bitumen. So we are supposed to classify the bitumen. How the bitumen is classified? Based on penetration grade, based on viscosity grade, right? So based on the penetration grade, we have 3 standard types of bitumen, that is 30/40 grade bitumen, 60/70 grade bitumen, as well as 80/100 grade bitumen. I was just discussing about these numbers 30, 40, 60, 70, 80, 100. What are these numbers? These numbers are the penetration values of the bitumen. So let us today discuss how we are going to conduct this particular test. Let us move on to the apparatus required. The first apparatus required for this conducting this particular experiment is the penetration test apparatus. This is standard penetrometer having readings from 0 to 400 mm. The unit of measurement is 1/10 of an mm. If you just observe, there is a unit of measurement that is 1/10 of a mm. So there is a 100-gram weight, surcharge weight is added to the penetrometer. This is a one piston which is capable of moving up and down, and there is a needle attachment, and there is a testing cylinder. This is a testing cylinder what we are going to use for doing penetration test. Next apparatus required is a thermometer. We require sample of bitumen to be tested and also a hot plate. Let's start penetration test. So what we are going to do, we are going to heat up the bitumen for 125 to 130 degrees centigrade. Why this 125 to 150 degrees centigrade means we are having the softening point of bitumen around 50 degrees centigrade, plus or minus 75 degree will be your pouring temperature. We are going to heat the bitumen to pouring temperature. Let us check the temperature of the bitumen. As soon it reaches 125 degrees centigrade, that particular temperature we are going to call it as a pouring temperature. Yes, now the bitumen is reaching 100 degrees centigrade, 115 degrees centigrade. What we will do is we just pour this particular bitumen onto the mold of testing. So what we will do is we just use a spatula. What we will do is we just hold it and transfer this pouring temperature bitumen into the testing mold. So once this is done, we are supposed to cool this particular sample in air for 1 hour, and also we are supposed to cool the same sample after air cooling 1 more hour in water before testing. Let's start doing the penetration test. After conditioning the samples in air cooling for 1 hour and water cooling for another hour, we are going to place this on the penetrometer. What we are going to do? We are going to do some initial adjustment. So what is that? The first thing, I am going to make sure that the needle of this just touches the top bitumen. The next thing, I am going to bring it down and I am going to set this dial to 0. After setting it to 0, what we are going to do is we are going to press this particular knob for 10 seconds. When I press this knob for 10 seconds, what happens? The penetration of needle is going to happen. After this penetration, what I am going to do? I am just going to revolve this and take a reading. The reading is 125 mm. Repeat the same test procedure for the same sample with 5 different locations. Take the average of 5 readings. The average depth of penetration gives you the penetration of the bitumen and it gives you the grades of the bitumen. So if your penetration value is between 30 to 40, it's called as a 30/40 grade bitumen. If your penetration value is between 60 to 70, it's called as a 60/70 grade bitumen. And if your penetration value is somewhere between 80 to 100, we call it as a 80/100 grade bitumen. For hotter climate, it's preferable to use with the 30/40 grade bitumen, that is hard bitumen. For cooler climate or cold regions, we are going to use the 80/100 grade bitumen, that is the for colder climate. This completes your penetration test experiment.
At MSR, you arc your imagination further.